I, Jay Hansen, call the Mechanical Board audio meeting of June 3rd, 2020 to order at 9:30 in the morning on June 3rd. Okay. Debbie, could you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Chair Jay Hansen.
Here.
Vice Chair Eric Fanning.
Here.
Walter Cottle.
Here.
Dirk Fraser.
Here.
Chris Miller.
Here.
Linda Kennedy is excused. Jed Sherman.
Here.
Ted Zook.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we do have a quorum. And also, Mr. Chairman, if I can announce the staff members that are connected to the audio conference. Warren Jackson, Manager of Field Services and Statewide Services. Warren, are you connected?
I'm here.
Thank you. And Alana Cox is the Manager of Policy and Technical Services and Regional Program and Training. Alana?
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning. And Andy Boulton, who is the Policy Analyst for this board. Andy?
I'm here.
Good morning. All right, go ahead, Mr. Chair.
Debbie, one more. And who would that be? That would be Mark
I'm
Heizer.
sorry.
Mark Heizer.
Mark.
Yeah.
I apologize, Mark. Mark Heizer.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Of
Chair.
course, we have Debbie. Have the members had a chance to review the meeting minutes from our last meeting on what was that? February 11th. My goodness. And if so, are there any changes to those meeting minutes? I jumped ahead. I'm sorry, Debbie. Do any of the members have any changes to today's agenda they would like to bring forward? Hearing none. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes from the September 11th meeting, our last meeting? Okay, we have none, so I'm going to move that those minutes are approved. And the date for our next scheduled meeting will be September 2nd of 2020. And I think that's all the business, so I'll hand this over to Andy Boulton.
Hello all. We have no written public comment as of this point, but if we receive any public testimony, we will address it as soon as possible.
Okay. Mark, do you have something you would like to present us on the mechanical end? No, code changes to the ORSC.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Hansen. For the record, Mark Heizer with the division. Want to give the sort of mechanical update from the division. First off, would like to give more of a formal introduction to our policy analyst, the new one, Andy Boulton. He comes to us. He's an attorney and has most recently worked as a legislative analyst for the Oregon Judicial Department. He has also worked as a project management consultant on disaster response programs. And so brings a lot of great experience to the division. We wanted to give him a welcome aboard to mechanical board as our policy analyst. One quick thing is regarding the residential code. It is currently, they're working on updates to the residential code, which will begin with the 2018 International Residential Code as the baseline. The division is looking at some modifications that have been passed to go into the 2021 IRC. So if there's some good ideas that have moved forward, we'll also see about bringing some of those forward. At the same time, As there will be some modifications to the mechanical and gas code items, significant changes that would be going through their board will be brought to the mechanical board for your review and comment. There will be some, substantive, probably ventilation change items, just how they're looking at homes as they're getting sealed tighter. Also, potentially, there's, via the Executive Order 1720, there's some significant energy provisions that do affect some mechanical pieces that will be brought forward as well. One other item we wanted to bring up and let the board know about, there are some of you who do have licenses through the division. I wanted to let everyone know that BCD has extended the deadline for the licenses that we issued. If you were scheduled to renew between April 1st, 2020 and December 1st, 2020, the deadline has moved to January 15th of next year. So given that it's just really hard to get paperwork through, the division has extended deadlines for license renewals. For more on BCD's response to the COVID-19 crisis, BCD does have a specific site page relative to COVID-19. You can find the link on the BCD homepage. And those are the significant points on updates from the division for the mechanical board. Thank you. Sure.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mark. Next on the agenda, we've got a presentation from Warren Jackson for Field Services and Statewide Services, and Warren will be talking to us about the mechanical minor labels in that program. Warren.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Hansen. Warren Jackson with the division. We are looking at putting together a pilot program for mechanical minor labels. Some of you may be familiar with our plumbing and electrical minor label programs. This would be something similar, but at the same time a little bit different. What we're looking at doing is leveraging some software we already have, ViewSpecs, which would allow folks to upload pictures and short videos of installations, and Acela, our e-permitting program that we currently have. So what we're looking at is a program similar to the existing minor label programs, but it would be different in the fact that folks would upload pictures and videos of each installation they make. We're looking at putting together some examples of the different types of installations and those types of pictures and or video that would allow an inspector to determine whether it is installed properly with the installation instructions or, the codes. As part of the pilot project, we're looking at working with the City of Salem, the City of Woodburn, and Marion County, and how this program would work. Like I mentioned earlier, each time a contractor did an installation and used a minor label, they would take a video or pictures or both, upload those into our ViewSpecs program, which would then store that information in a place that an inspector could locate it. In order to do that, you don't have to have a signal on your job site. The program has the capability of uploading those videos once you do have a signal or those pictures. Similar to the existing minor label programs, a particular installation from a group of 10 labels would be picked at random. We would notify the local jurisdiction, give them the information, and then they would review the pictures and video attached to that activity. Similar to the other programs, if the installation requires correction, the contractor would then obtain a permit from the local jurisdiction, make those corrections, and schedule a final inspection. The division would then randomly select another label for that group of 10 or from that group of 10, and then contact the local jurisdiction. We're looking at the pilot program and starting small just because we want to make sure the software works properly. We do want to make sure that the scoping provisions, the type of work allowed under a minor label are appropriate for this type of inspection process. And prior to rolling it out statewide, if this is successful, we want to have all the bugs worked out. The scoping provisions that we're looking at are very, very close to the same scope that the city of Portland uses for their minor label program. But our hope is that using the pictures will make it easier for both the customer and the contractor. And it also make it easier for the local jurisdiction. Sometimes today with current minor label programs, we have folks from local municipalities contacting homeowners months and months after an installation and trying to set up an inspection. So I think if this is successful, which I hope it is, I think it'll make the process easier for everybody. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
We have done, Jay Hansen, here, who is me, we have done this just kind of on our own with inspectors here of recently, and in the past, when we've had to cover and the inspector has not been able to get to the site. So, I mean, communicating with pictures and actually getting some image into the hands of inspectors that we have found to be very useful. I'm looking on the App Store at View Spec, like a pretty simple app. How does this tie? How does this app tie with, call it Excella, the software for taking out the minor labels? How do those?
Yeah.
How do you connect them?
And unfortunately, I'm not able to answer that question. I don't know the technical details of how everything works and how they're connected, or if they're connected, or I'm not sure how that works. I know that
a particular minor label number. I mean, there has to be a reference to a particular minor label, and you have to tie that to the data you upload to View Specs, so that the inspector can be on the same page with the person submitting the images.
Right.
Maybe I'm missing a point.
So the idea here is that the inspection wouldn't be live. So these images and video would be uploaded.
Right.
Somehow the View Spec would communicate with our permitting program to let us know that that minor label has been used. And I believe it uses some geotagging so that we know the location where the video and picture was actually taken.
Okay.
My understanding as well. And I know we have folks out there who have been working on putting this together. We have a whole team in our e-permitting program that works with the Excella program, and then we have some folks working with the View Specs as well. But my understanding is that that tie is pretty seamless.
Okay. I tried to install and implement and launch software around here at my business, and I know enough from those experiences to know that the words seamless and integration do not go together. There's always something, that affects something else, and then something else, and but that is to be expected. Okay, Warren, do you have anything else in that regard?
Yeah, and you bring up a good point with that, and that's why we want to start with a smaller pilot project to see if software works as promised and that it is feasible prior to taking it out to a larger group.
Chairman Hansen, this is Ted Zook. I have a few questions for Warren, if that's okay.
Please.
So well, I actually got a bunch of questions, so hang on, Warren.
Okay.
The first one is, you're talking about geotagging the properties. Is there also going to be something that's actually going to verify that this, is the unit there? I mean, the mechanical equipment is actually there. I mean, we do live, like FaceTime and I forget the Google apps, do virtual inspections now. We always require the contractor to show us the house, walk us back to whatever it is that we're inspecting so that we know that we actually have the address right and he's actually on that job. So that was the first thing. I know you probably don't have that answer right now, but it's just a suggestion. The other one is, how would this work for jurisdictions that don't have the Excella software program now? The reason I'm asking this is it looks like it might be a separate app that's, just like FaceTime or something like that you just install. But from your time with BCD, and back you were in the building official world, a lot of hesitation on members out there that don't like Excel and think that, state will someday force them to go on Excel. So there's going to be a point there that's going to have to have some clarity on it, that this, even if this is an Excel product, it's not something that somehow is being forced upon jurisdictions that they, this is the first step of getting into Excel. The next thing is, generally from calls that I've been on, most building officials, especially metro area building officials, are really supportive of the program. There have been some that have been adamant against it, but they're in the minority. And I think some of it stems from this, using an Excel product to have to be installed by their jurisdiction. And the last thing that I'd like to bring up is how long do you think this pilot program is going to go? Because the support among most of the members of OBOA was that they wanted this out to help with the COVID issue, and we should be moving into virtual inspections anyway. Some of them expressed disappointment that it was going to roll out as a pilot program and we didn't know when the rest of the state would be able to get it. The suggestion was that if there were some jurisdictions that wanted to volunteer more than you have, you certainly have some out there that would be interested in it. And one last comment. So BCD will notify the jurisdiction that there's that 1 out of 10 that needs to be inspected. It used to be that we used to be able to go out, and if we just happened upon a minor label on a job, and it wasn't something that was in our system, that the inspector would do the inspection anyway while they were there, and BCD would pay for that inspection. They've taken that component out, which doesn't really give the jurisdictions a lot of incentive to be going out inspecting things when we find them, and especially if there's going to be something like corrections on them. So payment for that. So I'll leave it at that. Is that enough to chew on?
Okay. Through Chair Hansen. Yeah, so I know that we are working with a couple jurisdictions to put together examples of the type of videos and pictures that would be helpful in determining whether something's installed correctly and, as you point out, installed in the house we think it is. So I'll see what those examples look like. I know at least one jurisdiction is quite proficient at doing video type inspections already. So we'll see how that goes. But you bring up a good point. We want to make sure that the unit is actually in the correct location. And I think the geotagging helps a little bit with that. I don't know all the technical details of that. Also, my understanding is that jurisdictions wouldn't have to install or use the Acela program. Now, it's possible, and I don't know all the details yet, and probably more of that will come out during the pilot program, but it's certainly not a move to try to get everybody on the Acela product. I think even if there was a desire to do that with everybody, which I haven't heard that desire whatsoever, I don't know that that would even be possible to have all the jurisdictions in Oregon on the Acela program. But, and statute does say it is voluntary. It's good to hear that folks are supportive of the program. And again, folks are not going to have to install Acela to use the minor labels or to do the inspections of the minor labels. Acela is web-based. I'm not sure if they'll be logging into Acela to look at something or simply logging into the view specs based on the information we provide them. The jurisdictions will be compensated. Our plan is to compensate them exactly like we do for the current minor label program, $75 to do that inspection. If there are corrections, then the permit obtained by the contractor would then pay for the cost of that reinspection. I don't know how long the pilot program will last. Our hope is, if it works quite well, certainly it'd probably roll out sooner statewide. If it doesn't work at all, maybe it won't roll out anywhere. But my hope is that it'll be successful. The decision on taking it statewide won't be mine, so I don't know exactly how that's going to look or how to work. I can certainly take the question back to the office about whether more people can participate sooner in the pilot program. And you bring up a good point. When I was in Marion County, many times our inspectors would see a minor label at a job site, make that inspection, and then see if it was available to claim. So I will check into that. That may be an option. I don't know for sure, but I'll try to find out the answer.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you, Warren.
Oh, thanks, Ted.
Those are all great points, Ted, and thank you for bringing those up. Definitely worth looking at. I find any time that we can make the inspectors' lives easier, it makes our lives much easier as contractors. So thank you for pointing those things out, that they certainly do need to be addressed. Are there any other questions for Warren? I do know I have some information. I spoke with Mark Heizer, and maybe Warren or Mark could talk about this, but during the past 3 months, Building Codes has done some things with minor labels, and it's expanded or temporarily expanded some of the minor label services. Maybe Mark or Warren could talk about that at the moment, where that stands. Okay, how about Mark?
I'm going to be Warren. Had to be Warren, I think.
Okay, how about Warren?
Sure, Anson. I'm not sure what they're referring to. I do know that we had a period of time where folks could print out their own minor labels because we didn't have access to our printers here in the office. Our office, as some of you may know, was actually shut down for about 2.5 weeks due to the number of COVID cases that had occurred in the office. So there was time to make sure that the virus died off. The building was disinfected twice, deep cleaned, and then we returned to the office and resumed printing and mailing out those labels. Now, there are some temporary rules regarding flexibility with inspections due to the COVID virus, and maybe that's what they're referring to. I don't know if Lori or Don might know more about the minor label expansion, but I'm not aware of an expansion for that. But there certainly have been rules adopted to ensure jurisdictions, local jurisdictions, state as well, where we're in this standard program, that there is flexibility to do remote inspections.
I think that's what I had heard. Just what would those? How is there any thought that those temporary rules have a built-in sunset where they will go? We know they will go away unless extended.
You know, Alana probably has a better answer. I do know that temporary rules are limited in length. I don't know what the length of this rule was. And I don't know, I think jurisdictions already have, you know, latitude to do remote type inspections. I think this kind of clarified that they do in fact have that, but I'm probably not the right person to answer that question.
Okay. All right.
Hi, through the chair, this is Alana. That rule is in place for 6 months as a temporary rule. I think Warren's correct that some of that creativity is already baked into the system, but it also allows some flexibility on, you know, the certifications that inspectors have, and allowing some inspectors to go outside of their scope of work on their certifications. So if there's still a need for that rule after the 6 months, we filed it in March, then we can explore filing another temporary rule.
Okay, Alana, thank you very much. Okay, I believe I think we're really, really close. We don't have any communications, no appeals, no unfinished business, no new business, no announcements. We're about ready to adjourn unless anybody has anything else they would like to add, bring up, or comment on. Hearing none, I, Jay Hanson, Chair of the Oregon State Mechanical Board, will adjourn this meeting June 3rd at 9:58 p.m. We'll see you on September the 2nd. Thank you all.